Hi, do you know, I really wanted to do this video out in the park this morning, but I just stepped outside the front door, 7 degrees, way too cold. So let me just share my thoughts real quick here on the computer. Um, you know, lots of people think that it's better to be kissed with a lie than be slapped with the truth. I beg to differ because I prefer to know what's coming up over the horizon. You know what, 2, 3 years ago, Bill Gates predicted that we would have a world pandemic. 2, 3 years later, right on cue, the pandemic appeared, first in China, and then it kind of leached out through Italy to the rest of Europe. And since then, the patterns as to how this thing is being managed are absolutely clear to all but those who prefer to bury their heads in the sand. First thing, it's been driven by panic and fear. First, we were panicked by what was happening in China. So when it got to Europe, we were far more amenable to drastic lockdown measures. Secondly, the science was managed and controlled by very few self-selected experts. All other voices were drowned out. And when you repeat a particular narrative long enough, it becomes the new truth. And so, as a result of drastic media censorship of a kind I have never seen in my 50+ years on this planet, we have had a few self-appointed experts telling us that the only route through this pandemic was the development of a vaccine, while we were being told that the vaccine was the holy grail we must all pursue. Other perfectly, now we know, good alternatives were taken off the table for discussion, including hydroxychloroquine. In fact, hydroxychloroquine was maligned in a flawed test, which came out to say that, hydroxychloroquine is killing people. Then there was the other thing, ivermectin. A fraction of the cost of vaccines, and therefore a whole lot less profitable to the people who purvey it. That was also taken off the agenda, plus a raft of other therapies which have been proven to be quite effective. So where's all this going? All of this is going, if we follow this narrative, which has been backed up by a media we frankly now cannot trust. For example, on the BBC I looked this morning, I didn't see any reports of the rally against the lockdowns and the vaccinations that took place in London. I did see, however, the demonstrations about what's going on with Israel and Palestine. Of course, that is a big world story because it can affect world peace, because that's a very volatile region of the world. However, you would have thought that the BBC would cover some significant numbers of people in this country who were pushing back against the government narrative. Very little coverage. So where's this going? This is obviously going towards this business of the mandated vaccine. Now, I can see what the issues are. Let's say, for example, you have been prevailed upon, following the narrative that has been very well curated, to take 1 or 2 shots of the vaccine. Now they're rolling out the vaccine, I'm told, to under 16s in the United Kingdom. And in Israel, actually, they're giving people permission at the age of 13 or 14, the children, to choose for themselves that they're going to be vaccinated. Now, these are all incredibly worrying developments. But because of media censorship, because of the exclusion of perfectly qualified experts in the field of epidemiology and immunization from the conversation, the discussion is being led by people who are completely unelected, and their representatives who have been foisted upon us as the voice of reason or the voice of wisdom. In fact, that we have elected representatives amounts to nothing. And this is what brings me to the most worrying tendency of all. Where we are has all the hallmarks of the creation of a world totalitarian state. You cannot mandate the vaccine without providing someone somewhere with the means to track every single one of us on this planet. They don't even have to write the mandation into law. All they can do is make sure that if you haven't been vaccinated, you're going to have to live in a shoebox for it to have been a de facto mandation of this. What is, again, let us use the phrase, which is true of the vaccine, of the so-called vaccine, that you never see in the mainstream press. It is an experimental biological agent. Now, if you've already had one or two of these jabs, the matter is no longer your concern. And it is by dividing us as human beings, as one group against the other, that a world totalitarian state can and will be created if we allow it to happen. Now, I said kissed with a lie rather than slapped with the truth. There are lots of people who are still going to want to share pictures of their moggies and their lunches and their this and their that, because all of these facts that I'm talking about are way too depressing. I think that they're less depressing than being made into a chattel slave who is controlled by somebody else with your human rights at risk. Last thing I'm going to say now goes to the intersectionality of this thing. We already live in a world in which institutionalized racism is known by everybody but not acknowledged, mostly by the people it benefits, which is white folk. It seems to me that the new world order that we're going to, if a totalitarian world state of any kind is being created, could be the biggest reach for white supremacism version 02. And I tell you why I say that. It's because every single agent who is making these decisions doesn't look like me. Of course, they have populated themselves with a few kind of box-ticking icons, like Tedros at the World Health Organization, and the lady from Nigeria, Wiala, who is now at the World Trade Organization. But let me guarantee you that everybody from the African Union, everybody from the continent of Africa is an order taker when it comes to the way this pandemic is being run. Secondly, do you know, because of world demographics, towards the end of the century, everybody will be connected to or related to Africa. I'm saying that because all the population growth in the world is going to happen in Africa. But here's the thing. 80% of the pollution of the world is coming from those in the West, mostly white folk, who are now using the problems they have caused for the world to control the way we live, while we form very little of the causation of these difficulties. Of course, now recently the media is showing, and there is, I'm not denying the fact that we should be very concerned about the rates at which deforestation taking place from my own country of origin, Ghana. I mean, rosewood, which is a very, very beautiful, very precious wood, is being chopped down at staggering rates to feed the demand in nowhere in Africa. Let's go to China. So that makes the point that, of course, we must be mindful of environmental despoliation, but do not allow the people who have caused this problem to use the problem they have caused as a gun to our heads to control the way we live. At least, certainly not without us having an equal say in what the outcomes are going to be. So there we have it. There will be paid, incentivized agents who will work amongst Africans to get Africans to roll over. Well, thus it ever has been from the days of Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, um, uh, uh, and very recently Magafuli. I mean, thus it always has been. This has always been the story. We know these people run amongst us. But I'm telling you now that you have to wake up. You can no longer sit there and contemplate your navel while the destiny of the human race itself is being decided, all because of a pandemic which is being used as the Trojan horse by which power is being grabbed by people you nor I ever elected, rendering those who you and I elected as little marionettes, that's puppets on the end of a string, who mindlessly do the bidding of their overlords. The thoughts I want to share with you this Sunday morning.